ministers, dear colleagues. I'll start in French before I go to English. I'll start in French to answer the invitation of the Minister Pompili, who said earlier that we should come to France, come to join France for this exemplary Mediterranean. And I say, yes, this is the main vocation of the Union for the Mediterranean, to make the Mediterranean a true example in every sector. But when we talk specifically about the sea itself, and as the Commissioner mentioned, the position on blue economy, see the four axes of the French decisions. I had the honor of taking part in its launching. The four directives that you know: preservation of marine biodiversity, sustainable fishing, fighting against overfishing, fight marine pollution, particularly plastic, and change usual practices in maritime transport. These four axes were importantly mentioned in a declaration that France and the rest of the Mediterranean wish for at our ministerial meeting on blue economy. To come back to the subject of this specific axis, and here I'll go on to English.
Against marine pollution has always been a priority for the UfM. We all are aware of the gravity of the situation. 1.2 million tons of litter exists today on our sea, and there is a leakage of 230 tons each year. 94 of those are macroplastic and 6 are micro. And the numbers are abound, so I'm not going to go through all the numbers, but they are all worrying. So not only the Mediterranean is a climate hotspot, it is becoming a biodiversity hotspot also. And that's why, as I mentioned in my introductory remarks, our Ministry of the Economy was very specific in terms of fighting marine litter and plastic, especially, as a top priority for the Mediterranean and for the Union for the Mediterranean. Of course, we heard throughout the day about the many project initiative fund. The UfM also is doing its bit. We are, of course, sponsoring the Plastic Buster initiative, which is actually a very nice example that could be followed by so many other countries, because it works towards creating between the country involved a whole management cycle of marine litter, from monitoring to assessment and also prevention and mitigation, as well as strengthening networking between all the authority of the pelagic and coastal areas in terms of dealing with marine litter. This could be actually a very good example to follow, and I invite you all to look into that specific project, because it could be un projet exemplaire in the sense that we could learn from it. The other important axis to deal with the issue of litter is science policy interface. We did that at the UfM with Plan Bleu when it comes to the impact of climate change. And we did the first ever regional report with MEDEC on the assessment of climate and environmental change in the Mediterranean. And I think when it comes to marine litter and to the health of the sea, we need to engage into this science policy interface. And I promise that we'll go into that, because we need to work into developing mechanisms and methods of monitoring bioindicators and protocols at the Mediterranean level. We also need to work as the UfM and everybody else in related participatory decision-making process. We need to start trying to work a certain way of synergy to increase our collective capacity to impact the situation on the ground. Research and development are paramount because we need to start working very fast into improving the economic viability and efficiency of biodegradable plastic or bio-based plastics, so we can once and for all achieve our goal of zero plastic. But let me now, in 1 minute, because the Vice Minister from Albania will be giving you the details, but let me go to the crux of my intervention in just a couple of minutes, which is the importance of climate finance. Not only climate finance, but impact finance. Public funds are important. The Mediterranean actually is doing fairly well in terms of its fair share of receiving available funds out of 700 billion US dollars in 2018. This is where the numbers exist. Our region has been able to account for 9% of that flows when it comes to climate finance. Some countries are doing better than others. I'm talking about the southern Mediterranean and eastern Mediterranean shores, of course, the likes of Morocco, Turkey, and Egypt, but also others are doing quite well, like Algeria, Montenegro, and others. That is the public available funds for climate adaptation mitigation and for environmental action in terms of combating marine litter and other activity around our common sea. But what we're lacking in our region is what I call impact investment. And this is where the initiative that we supported with the Region for Climate Action, R20, to create a subnational climate financial initiative and also to create a subnational climate financial initiative dedicated to the Mediterranean is an extremely important example to follow and to look at. Why? Because it is working with local authority, not even with national governments. It's working at a small and medium scale. We're talking about project from, if I'm not mistaken, 5 to 30 million, yes. And they all, and when we look at the sector on which they work in terms of job creation, in terms of impact on the environment, and in terms of attenuation, adaptation, and mitigation when it comes to climate change, they are extremely important. I don't want to overtake what you're going to say, so I might stop at this. This is a very innovative approach where we do blending between private investment and public funds, GCF and others, in terms of the choice of the size of project and in terms of who or with whom we are working in each of our member states, because we are working with the local authority. Marseille in France, Alexandria in Egypt, whoever in Al. So this is extremely important. So without further ado, but because I think I did speak for a while, I would hand over to my very dear colleague, the Vice Minister of Albania, to give you much more detail on the specificities of our fund and the initiative of R20. Thank you very much.